Hakeem Adedeji, the CEO of Hydrocarbon Advisors, now joins me to discuss this and more. Hakeem, welcome to Power on West Africa. Shall we start first by taking your thoughts on whether or not you saw this coming within the industry?
Okay, good morning, or rather good afternoon. I think this has been long, this has been on the cards for quite a while. It is surprising that it came out now, but I think this is part of the good news that we probably have seen out of the NNPC in recent months, or perhaps in the last couple of years. It is not unexpected, and it is revealing as to what it brings out, as to what we're able to see, even though it's not complete yet. So, not expected, but good news.
So clearly not expected, you said, and you also highlighted the fact that it has been a very much long-awaited step for the NNPC to take. Now, I am wondering about going forward what this would mean for the transparency issues surrounding the NNPC's operations.
I think in the same light, I think this is, again, this brings into account, this actually pushes NNPC into the age of transparency and accountability. I think what this brings out, even looking at this, scanty, release that they have actually brought out, it helps the citizenry, it helps everybody see which operation within NNPC is actually profitable and which isn't. And I think this would also help in terms of analyzing, which part of the operations, perhaps take for example, I don't know if they have released the report of the downstream sector, apart from the refineries, but you can clearly see that the refineries at the moment actually look rather unprofitable. So people will start asking the questions, why are we subsidizing? Why are the refineries not working? So in terms of accountability, I think this is further good news, to be honest with you.
So talking about what this would mean for NNPC going forward in terms of transparency discussions and all that, I'm curious to know, especially since you also mentioned the fact, of course, about the profitability of Nigeria's state-owned oil company. Which way are analysts going with this conversation now? Analysts, of course, an industry operator, are you all just happy to see a step in the right direction as far as transparency is concerned, or do you expect to see scrutiny going forward and criticisms about which subsidiary of the NNPC is bringing in returns and which is not, and what steps should be taken going forward?
I think the mere fact that NNPC has published is good news, but just like everything else in Nigeria, I expect a lot of kudos, but I don't expect this to last for too long. I think people are going to start questioning the operations of the corporation now, because they have the basis, they have the information to do so. So you start asking yourself, this refinery, this Kaduna refinery that has zero revenues and has huge costs, for example, why keep it? Why not change the operation? So operators are going to start asking questions and issuing, they will be issuing criticisms going forward. But, just like everything else, when you look at how long NNPC last released its report, this is certainly, again, good news. I think it's also going to help the NNPC itself. Take, for example, NNPC trying to raise money, perhaps this provides whoever is going to raise that money the basis upon which to, do their assessment. It can only expose the NNPC in the right direction going forward. But as you said, as you asked,
So Hakeem, I'm just going to very quickly try to chip in one last question now before we go on break. This is almost over. Allow me to interrupt you there. So since you mentioned the NNPC now and how this may be tied to how the organization will be positioning itself for profit making, I am thinking about the timing of such a decision in the transparency angle now for the NNPC at a time within the industry where globally it is almost very largely accepted to be a zero profit making industry at this time in the oil space?
I don't know about zero profit making. I don't know whether this is acceptable, but this is where we find ourselves as, you know, as a global industry, and this is where NNPC finds itself. And I think the question we should be asking right now is that to what extent can the corporation move away from loss making into profit making? And I think this raises a whole set of questions going forward, you know, for the corporation.